Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing Aiden Fucci. Aiden Fucci recently pled guilty and was sentenced to life for the murder of Tristyn Bailey. He stabbed her 114 times. We're going to be examining his body language today and seeing what it tells us about what he does and does not feel. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you to like and subscribe if you want more content like this. And on top of that, I have a link in the description if you want to learn more about body language because I'm currently working on a course and you can get on the waitlist for that if you're interested. All right, let's go. Now, there's no audio to this part, which doesn't really matter because you wouldn't really be able to hear what they're saying anyway. But this gives us a baseline of what his behavior looks like. He seems very calm. He seems very flat, similar to Brian Koberger, which we talked about recently. But if you saw that just there, he smiled when they were talking about something. Let's go back for a second, and I'll explain why that matters. See, he's having a casual conversation with his attorney. He's smirking. He's got a little bit of a laugh. And part of the reason this is so inappropriate is that the family of the girl he murdered are not directly behind him, but nearby. This situation is not bothering him enough to be able to inhibit a smile when he's feeling it. One thing we are going to see over and over again is no remorse. None whatsoever. He was 14 years old when he committed the murder, which he's pled guilty to. He's 16 years old now, and he's very flat. He's very emotionless. The times that we see emotion, we're gonna explore why that is, because he does show some, but remorse he shows none, and I'm going to show that consistently. So now we're just going to work on getting a baseline of what his behavior is like during the sentencing.
All right, State, you may call your next witness.
So what you'll notice right now is his posture is calm. His hands are interlocked, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's anxious or stressed or anything. Just sitting there like he'd be sitting anywhere. Doesn't seem to be particularly fazing him that he's in court right now. And it's worth pointing out, there are times where he stares intensely or he stares in one place without moving, but right now, he's moving, he's looking around. It's not like he's catatonic and just sitting in one place the whole time. So just wanted to show that, he is able to look around and has some interest around the room.
Maybe if you'll pause right there and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to...
Now we're going to see Aiden in an interview room with his parents. I wanted to show that his affect, the way he presents, is similar even before he was arrested and tried in any of this stuff. So let's take a look for just a second.
Not very smart. Not at all. Now we have people on the phone in our house, not in our car stuff. Because of that Snapchat thing you did. It's all over. You're all over the internet and everywhere. Social media. It's on social media.
So, understandably, you can hear the stress in his mother's voice. There is pressure there. There's stress. Clearly, she is affected and upset by this situation.
I'm stable. We have to get done with this. Just for your well, safe being.
And he looks exceptionally calm right now. And strikingly calm, in fact, where he's not moving his hands, he's not doing anything. Now, I'm sure he has some feelings. I'm sure there had to have been some anxiety, because psychopaths and people who kill are not absent of anxiety. It's not that they have none. It's just that they have very little. So I'm sure that there's some degree of anxiety because of the pressure that's on right now, but he shows essentially none.
You have no space for nothing, you right? No, sir. You don't stop.
So when we're with people that we care about, oftentimes we mimic their behaviors. If they are upset, we start to feel upset. If they are feeling tense, then we tend to mimic that in some way. And right now, he's not mimicking anything that his parents are doing, despite the fact that he's in an interview room, despite the fact that this is after he had murdered somebody. So it's striking how little his body language says right now. It speaks volumes by how little he's doing, really, but he's showing so little body language. He taps his fingers some, which is not that unusual, and we actually see that quite often in psychopathy. But at this point, he's still showing very little emotion. So he's mildly fidgety. He's got a little bit of fidgetiness. He's tapping his fingers a little bit. He's probably calculating what to do next. But given the circumstances, it is a remarkably little amount of fidgeting.
Probably. She said she wouldn't come home. She said she's gonna find somebody to stay
Like she
at her
left her
house.
there and walked.
So he's telling a lie right now about what he thinks might have happened. And he's showing very little emotion during this, too. Lying oftentimes is uncomfortable for people. For psychopaths, obviously, it is not a problem. They don't mind lying. But right now, he's doing it effortlessly.
She got picked up after that. She just.
What were you doing outside that late at night?
I was at Trey's house and I was
Did you kiss or do anything with this girl?
Be honest as you can to them.
Two.
Yes.
yeah, I kissed her.
Anything further?
So one of the challenges with having a parent ask questions, or anybody ask them in this way, is he asked, if he kissed her, and he said, yeah, he did. Asking leading questions like this is never advisable. You just need to ask, what happened? Tell me what happened. Give me a detail. What happened then? And what happened then? What happened then? When you ask somebody, did you do this or did this happen? It gives them a chance to lie, and then they can take the lie somewhere else. So asking, and it's not his parents' fault because they don't know how to interview somebody like this, but asking, did you kiss her? Well, and then he says, yes, that somehow then adds to the story.
It's very serious.
This is no joke. This is your whole life. Your whole life.
And hers.
And ours. And your brothers and sisters.
Now, if you watch his mother, if you watch her body language, she put her hands on her hips, like sometimes mothers do. And the purpose of that is to take up space. That's a way to seem demanding. So when her mother's saying this, I assume she really means quite strongly that she wants him to listen to her. And she probably feels like she's not in control right now because he's not giving them anything. He's just sitting there, and he's able to withstand whatever emotions they show, whatever they ask. It doesn't seem to affect him much.
And hers.
And ours. And your brothers and sisters.
And then, as you can see, his mother put her hands behind her back after that. I think that she's very uncomfortable in this situation. And I'm curious how much she believes that he committed this at this point, or if she knows that. I know that she's been arrested because she found and tried to clean his bloody jeans, and so I would assume at this point she's feeling quite uncomfortable. But oftentimes when people put their hands behind their back, especially in circumstances like this, it can imply that they're feeling uncomfortable or that they are wanting to hide something themselves. Obviously, right here, his father's feeling quite stressed. He's rubbing his forehead with his hand, something people do when they experience intense amounts of stress. What's interesting is that Aiden isn't doing any of those things because he feels calm right now, or mostly calm. He certainly doesn't feel the same degree of stress that his parents seem to.
And badger you, badger you, badger you, badger you. Till your answer changes.
It's interesting right there. She's talking about how the police are going to badger you and badger you and badger you and badger you until your answer changes. So in other words, they're going to ask him the same question over and over again. And to me, that implies that she might believe that he did it at this point, or that she might be trying to make sure that he doesn't change his story, because to me that sounds like she's giving him information. Because if he didn't do it, he could answer the same question 100 times and it's going to be consistent. So why would she need to tell him that?
Fun in a f***ing cop car.
Yep. Tristyn.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristyn, if you f***ing walk out the damn...
When you see this in a...
So you'll see he's able to act so naturally after having committed this murder. Once again, it speaks to his inability to feel negative emotions, the inability to feel guilt or remorse. Once again, that doesn't mean he can't feel sadness. It doesn't mean he can't feel certain emotions, but he seems incapable of remorse. So as we can see right now, he seems to be calmly sitting in his chair. It's swaying a little bit, but I don't think that's out of anxiety. He doesn't seem to be too stressed or anxious about any of this stuff. He's just part of what's going on. None of this seems to be fazing him much. Now we're going to watch the medical examiner talk about Tristyn Bailey's autopsy.
Yes, there are significant injuries to the body of Mrs. Bailey. We have 114 separate sharp force injuries, a combination of incised and stab wounds overlying many body surface areas.
So we're seeing two things right now. One is he seems attentive and interested.
Overlying.
He's looking in the way of the medical examiner. Even his attorney is twiddling his pen a little bit. I think it's uncomfortable to hear somebody talk about this. He seems calm. He's rocking his chair a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be self-soothing in the sense that he's uncomfortable. He just seems to be focused and paying attention, which is not what we always see from him. So I want you to keep that in mind.
Many body surface areas.
Now, at this point, they're talking in extreme detail about the autopsy and all of the 114 stab wounds and marks that were left.
Correct. Correct. They needed 2 photos to show all the wounds in this particular site.
It has been several minutes. At this point, his attorney is typing, maybe he's typing something about his defense, I don't know. But he's not attentively focused. Aiden at this point is still listening to every word.
This is scalp and neck. We have 9 wounds, numbers 82.
And he's not just looking. He's looking at who's talking. He's paying attention to this. He seems to be interested in this. Now we're going to see how Aiden reacts to victim impact statements.
There's nothing we can do to fix the hurt, remove the fear, or bring Tristyn back. And unfortunately, as these kids get older, the pain will only become more severe.
Now you see him looking down, and to me this is a look of disinterest. This is not a look of shame. It's not a look of guilt. This is a look of disinterest. He has no remorse. Not one bit of remorse has been shown throughout this entire sentencing. And so we see them talking about the gory details and seeing the medical examiner talk about what happened. He shows interest. He's engaged. He wants to listen. We see the victims talking about their experience. He's not crying. He's not upset. He's not remorseful. He just is disinterested.
Severe as they bring their own children into the world and try to protect them from evil.
Now we're seeing him after the impact statements, and you're going to see a little bit of aggression right here.
Let me ask you.
So you can see he's rocking in his chair a little bit harder, and then he took the pen and he kind of threw it down. He's feeling annoyed. He's not feeling remorseful, guilty, sad, or any of those things. It is irritating him to have to listen to what he's done. Now Aiden's grandmother is going to provide some testimony.
So where did the kids spend the summer?
Well, some in Jacksonville. Came out of our lives forever. I know that I've died and not be able to spend time with him.
So right now we're seeing him sit forward. This is the probably the most dramatic display of emotion that he's experienced, and it's right after she said, "Don't take him out of our lives forever." So I don't know if it's hitting home that he actually is going to be going to prison for the rest of his life, and that something about her talking is making him recognize that more. But when she was talking about the victims' families, he didn't show any more emotion. Once again, this is not remorse. This is not guilt. This is not feeling bad for who he killed. This is him being upset that he is being punished. I mean, I'll show you again. We'll watch this.
Amen. I just hope you consider it a little bit. Please don't take him out of our lives forever. I know that I've died and not be able to spend time with him sometime before I go.
And he may have some genuine feelings related to seeing his grandmother cry. That may be hard for him. But the amount it affects him, once again, it's not that psychopaths or people that commit atrocities like this feel literally nothing. It's just that they feel very little. So this may be one of the few people he has a connection with. But it doesn't change the fact that he still shows no guilt, remorse, or sadness for what he has done. And now we're going to compare Aiden Fucci's body language to Dennis Rader, otherwise known as BTK. He was a serial killer who was sentenced to 10 life sentences.
At that time. And that you could be trolling for months or years. But once you lock in on a certain person, then you become stalking. And that might be several of them, but you really home in on that person. They basically become that's the victim. Or that's what you want. Belt. I took the belt and then strangled her with the belt at that time.
All right, after you had strangled her, what happened then?
Okay. After I strangled her with the belt, I took the belt off and retied that with pantyhose, real tight.
So as we can see, there's a remarkable sense of calmness when talking about this stuff. Now, we didn't see Aiden Fucci give testimony. We saw him listening. We saw him interacting some when his parents were talking to him about what he had committed. But generally speaking, he has been remarkably calm, even though we haven't seen him give a confession like this. But I wanted to contrast somebody else who admitted to guilt, somebody else who had committed horrific crimes, and somebody else who did it many times, as had he not been caught, there's no reason to believe that he would not have done it again. One thing to understand about these folks is that it's not that they don't feel anything. Obviously, they feel excitement, and they feel rage. They are angry at women. The vast majority of serial killers and murderers that do things like this are deeply, deeply misogynistic. So now let's look at an apology letter he wrote. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there are a couple of things that stand out to me. Now, he wrote this to Judge Smith, and in the first paragraph, he's apologizing to the Bailey family. He never apologizes to Tristyn Bailey herself, which does stand out to me. And I think that that's a really important part of an apology letter of someone that was viciously murdered. But that's not even the main thing that stands out. As the letter goes on, as we see, there's like 6 lines written to the Bailey family, a couple of lines written to the community. But after that, he apologizes to his family and starts talking about, I miss being outdoors with my dad and brothers. I miss the fun we had. And then in the next one, he's talking about, it's an apology to his mother. The next paragraph, he says that he misses her food, that he misses her hugs, that he misses her. More of this letter is written about what he's missing out on than a true apology. And I believe it's an attempt at manipulating. It's sort of a clumsy attempt at manipulating, honestly. But he is trying to guilt people for what he is going through. And this is what people that are psychopaths do. They have such poor empathy, they can't develop a sense of audience to know this is not an appropriate place to talk about what he misses. This is a place, if he's truly trying to apologize, to talk about his regret, his remorse, all of those things. He says, I'm sorry a few times, but truly, he spends 2 longer paragraphs talking about what he misses about life and the world outside of prison. So understand, he truly lacks remorse. This is not the letter of someone who truly cares about the well-being of the people he has harmed. So now we're going to see Judge Smith summarizing the case and sentencing Aiden Fucci.
114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds.
So as you can see, he looks down. Now, you might think of that as shame or remorse or embarrassment or something, and I don't believe that it's any of those things. I think that he doesn't want to look at the judge because the judge has legitimate power over him. The judge has power over his future. And I think that likely makes him angry. So I think him looking down is likely out of anger or frustration because the judge is giving him his sentence and there's nothing that he can really do about it at this point.
This court has reviewed and seen her there under false pretenses.
Now, if you were paying attention, he was shaking his head left to right just now. I don't think that he's actually disagreeing with what the judge is saying. In other words, he's not saying that it isn't true. I think that he's just in denial that he is having to pay for his actions, that there is actual punishment for what he's done. So I think he's shaking his head no in defiance. I do not see this as him actually disagreeing with what the judge says in that sense.
There was a heightened level of premeditation in this case. Going to kill someone. At which point he determined that it was going to be Tristyn Bailey, I don't know.
Once again, the idea that he has to pay for his actions is tremendously frustrating, and he's essentially in denial. He knows it's coming, and I don't even think that he's intentionally shaking his head, but I think that he is essentially refusing what the judge is saying, despite the fact that he can't really refuse.
Guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristyn Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison.
And as you can see, he has no visible emotion here. No sadness, no remorse, no guilt. He's just staring straight ahead. Probably, if there's any emotion, it would probably be anger, because once again, the judge does have legitimate power in this situation. And so, as Judge Smith reads this out to him, he's probably angry. You can't see it on his face, other than he's got a very intense stare. But, once again, very little emotion that we're seeing outwardly from him. So I hope this video helps you better understand Aiden Fucci and helps you better understand why he is so dangerous. This is someone who seems incapable of remorse or guilt or feeling shame for what he has done and the families he has destroyed. One thing that I hope you take away from this video is the understanding that some people are truly incapable of empathy. And I don't mean in the sense of somebody on the spectrum who's not very good with empathy and comes across as awkward or struggles to understand other people. But there's some people who are so unempathic that they exploit and con and hurt people around them for fun. And people like that unfortunately do exist. And I just wanted to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. All right, thanks so much for watching.